Thanks, Claude. I would open with thanking the fans again for a tremendous home environment. That's the expectation we've set at UGA for environment to be intense and fun and exciting. And I thought that the crowd did that, and we want the same this week. Vanderbilt got a lot of respect for Clark. He's an alumnus of the school, similar to me. I've always respected the work and job he did. He did a tremendous job when he was at Wake, and we copied a lot of those things he did defensively there, and then competed against him as the defense coordinator at Notre Dame as well. So through the SEC head coaches meetings, gotten to know him better and got a lot of respect for the way he carries himself and the way he leads his program. So that we're on to Vandy.
Kirby, after looking at the tape, is there any common thread you've noticed in the slower offensive starts in the first half over the past 2 weeks?
Not that I can speak of. I mean, some missed opportunities, but it's an opportunity to grow and get better each day at practice. And our guys have kind of adopted the mentality that they're going to do that each and every day. They get to go against a really good defense in practice, and I think everybody defines slow differently. So I don't let our guys fall vulnerable to maybe what you think slow and what we think slow. I think that's the definition for each party. I think when you play in the SEC, you play against really good quality defenses, and usually at the start of the game, they're at their best.
Yeah, Coach, you kind of did sneaky almost 100 yards from Branson Robinson. Obviously, he's a guy that creates a lot of buzz. Nick Chubb 2.0 and Baby Chubb and that kind of stuff. Can you talk a little bit about how he's developing and why he was able to do what he was able to do this past Saturday?
He was able to do it because of opportunity, and he was able to do it because of a really good game plan in the run game and our offensive line moving their defensive line. But he was given the opportunity to do it, and he seized that opportunity. He created that opportunity for himself through his work habits, how hard he's worked since arriving. But it's not like he hadn't been talented the whole time he's here. He's earned the opportunity through the work he's done, and you gain confidence through what you do in practice. And I think he continues to grow, have attention to detail in terms of pickups on checks and protection and protecting the ball and making good run reads. And he's done a lot of those things. And we certainly felt strongly enough about him and the job he's done in practice to get him some in-game carries.
As a follow-up on Branson, I know you don't really do comparisons, but going back to when you were running backs coach here in 2005, it seems more if he's more of a Thomas Brown type back than Chubb. Can you kind of give me any indication on that?
No, not really, because I don't think it's fair. Like, I'll let you guys do all the comparing. I'm happy with who Branson is. Like, Branson's his own person. I think everybody tries to give somebody a style of running back, but I don't know that you've got a body of work large enough to know. We probably do because we get to see him each and every day, but I don't think giving him comparisons is fair to him or the others. And I think he's going to be a really good football player. He has great burst and acceleration, and he has great toughness.
Kirby, I know you guys meet with the broadcast crew before the game. I noticed when getting to watch the game again that they mentioned something about Stetson and a shoulder issue. I wanted to see if what he's dealing with there, how limiting that is for him, for you guys, week of practice, game plan. Is there anything going on there?
No, Stetson's been good. He was dinged up after the Missouri game in terms of he took some shots in that game. I think he got knocked down a couple times. His shoulder was bothering him, but it hadn't been a large limitation. I mean, he hadn't missed practice time and things. So he's been good in regards to that.
Kirby, what does Stetson's running ability bring to your offense that maybe some of your other starting quarterbacks didn't have, and beyond just the long touchdown the other day?
He brings the ability to make defenses play him honest. You can't play a guy that can take off running a certain way, and if you do, he'll expose you. So he gives you the ability when people man match, play split safety coverages. He can do things with his feet. Third down, he becomes a weapon. Boot and nakeds, read plays where you can read the backer and read the flow, and you're actually defending one extra person, and we know that defensively from some of the quarterbacks we've had to face, the nightmare that can create. So we got to do a good job of utilizing that skill set while also keeping him safe.
Kirby, I don't remember, maybe this is true, but 35 minutes of time of possession a game. What's the evolution of that been for this team? How is this offense? Why has that worked for this offense?
I think every year it's different. Some of your time of possession is how many 3 and outs you have on defense. So, you got to look at it both ways. There's been years here where we've been really good defensively and we got the ball back fast for the offense. There's been years that we ran the ball more successfully, and that eats more clock. Time of possession is a very misleading stat if you look at it long and hard. But it's something we pride ourselves on, and finishing the first half, starting the second half fast, trying to be elite at doing those things. But it's not a stat that we overanalyze. We don't sit and talk about did we hold the ball long enough. We talk a lot more about plays. Did we get enough, the number of plays we got offensively, and then defensively, how many snaps have we played? I would much rather have disparity there than in time of possession.
Just injury updates on Jalen Carter, Kendall Milton, and Smael Mondon after obviously Kendall leaves the game with a groin injury, and then Smael and Jalen don't play on Saturday.
Yeah, don't know. I'll have to wait and see. I hadn't seen him yet, So Jalen, obviously, we won't find out. He's every day he's getting better. He's rehabbing. He's doing more. I'll see more today. Smael was close to being able to go in the game. Didn't practice a lot last week. Hopeful to get him back this week, and the same with Kendall.
Coach, as far as their play as far as the point of attack play goes, as far as your defensive line is concerned, how did you think those guys did this past week, especially some of the younger players?
Some good, some bad. And guess what? It's the exact same as every game. So you want to measure everything by stats, but there's times we got cut out of our gap. There's times we got knocked off the ball. There's times we got bumped. Times we got beat, in the secondary, and times we did it right. Probably didn't have exactly the quarterback and the receivers to expose that sometimes when we didn't do it right. But I'm proud of the development those guys have had. They keep getting better. And we've got to get more guys on defense that can play winning football. And that's going to be the key down the stretch as we play these games coming up, including Vandy. You got to have more guys that can play with stamina the more snaps you have to play.
Coach, last week one of the Auburn players was talking about keeping Georgia out of his third down packages on defense. But I noticed when you're in your third down package a lot, we see Xavier Story, Michael Williams, and Bear out there. Some young guys on your money down. Can you talk a little bit about the faith you have in putting those 3 guys out there?
Yeah, they've earned the right to be out there. They're extremely good athletes. They have quickness, explosive. Might not have the strength in terms of the core weight room. I mean, Bear's coming off of shoulder surgery. Michael's a freshman that went through spring, and then Sawyer's a guy that came in and had not played a lot of football in high school because of injuries. So they all 3 have really good traits. I think one of the best things we do here at Georgia is take a freshman and say, what does he do really well? How do we utilize that in year 1? And you go back to the year that we had N'Kobe on third down, Javon was on third down, Tyreek Stevenson was on third down. We had these players that were playing as freshmen on third down because they could go out and execute at a premium. Some of those guys that you're talking about are playing out of necessity. We had other guys that might be in front of them, whether it be Smael or Jalen, that get dinged up. Those guys got to get ready to go play. So been pleased with what they've done, but we got to execute a little better with each one of them included.
Kirby mentioned the opener kind of creating this monster of an impression what people have of you and kind of expectations that every game would be like that. Is the games being closer, the last 3 games, a reflection maybe of opponents adjusting a little bit to you guys, or are there other factors, or is it just that, you don't have to necessarily blow out teams 49-3 every game?
Well, the factors truly are limitless when you factor in millions of things that come to impact a game, whether it's what they're doing, what we're doing, headspace, the location, time of day, the temperature. I mean, you could factor a million things into that. At the end of the day, you want to execute at a high level, and sometimes the person on the line across from you does a good job at the point of attack and stops that. And you got to find other ways to attack them where you can win at. And in some cases, it has nothing to do with the opponent and has everything to do with us and just executing better. But that's not anything to do with our offense or how we started on Oregon or how we did on defense. It's just, to be honest with you, having 11 guys on the same page, executing better more consistently. And I think if we get that across the board, you'll always have good results.
Coach, you already talked about Xavier's story, but Rian Davis was another guy that had to step up with Smael Mondon being out. How would you describe his game yesterday on Saturday, especially in a spot where you got to communicate to both the front end and the back end and execute?
Yeah, it's twice as hard because we're at home. So we knew we pumped crowd noise in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday walk, Saturday before the game. We're still doing crowd noise to try to get the simulation of those backers having to communicate because there's such a integral role to what we do defensively, and I thought Rian stepped up. I mean, his maturity showed in terms of being able to have composure and play. We had to play Sorey more than maybe he's played in the past in first and second downs, and we have to continue to work on that position because it's not a position that we have tremendous depth at, and we've got to look and always find ways to get our best guys on the field. I was proud of Rian, though, because he's not a guy who's played a lot of snaps. He's had a lot of injuries. He's been dinged up even in recent weeks, but he went out and pushed through and played well for his team.
Kirby, a coaching philosophy question for you. When you have a guy that's struggling, like a couple weeks ago, you had Ladd McConkey with drop passes and a muff punt. When do you pull a guy? Is it based on the position? Is it based on your faith in him? Or when, or not so much pull him, but how do you stick with him? Do you change it by position? Do you have different criteria from position to position, or is it player to player?
Just watch practice. I mean, it's millions of reps of practice, and I put a lot of value on that. And we do all we can from a sports psychology standpoint, and you go out there and practice. And if you practice the right way with toughness, effort, energy, passion, and believe in yourself, then we're going to continue to believe in you. And I believe in all these guys we got. I see these guys work really hard every day in practice, so give them an opportunity to play free in a game and go cut loose.
Coach, just the passing game the last few weeks, obviously Stetson missed some open receivers deep. How in general do you feel like his ability is on deep balls? And then the passing game as a whole, do you feel like that's struggling and needs to be tightened up, or it's just hadn't been necessary the last couple of weeks?
I feel great about Stetson as a passer, always have. He does a tremendous job seeing the field. He does a great job going through his reads. He's got great arm talent. He can throw touch passes. He can anticipate throws as good as anybody in terms of anticipating a guy getting open while he's getting pressure. Seen him repeatedly do that here, and he's done a good job in the passing game. So very pleased with where he is in regards to that.
Kirby, you guys jumped on Vandy early last season, and obviously a very lopsided result. In what ways do you see that program improving from year one to year two under this coach?
A lot. You start with the first game of the year. You know, they go out to Hawaii and play in a tough environment, tough time change. Very mature to handle that and play well. They played well last week. When you watch the Ole Miss tape, they came out and attacked and played well. I mean, well coached. So the expectation is that you're going to grow and get better. And everybody measures that in different amounts. I'm sure Clark has his way of measuring it, just like we have our way of trying to measure improvement. But they probably, to me, one of the most improved teams in our league in terms of the way they're playing right now.
When you have a player as talented as Brock Bowers, how, as a coach, do you balance getting him the ball enough to make sure that he's consistently making an impact on this offense, but also not forcing him the ball where the opposing team knows he's going to get it and try and cover him up as triple coverage, as we saw on Saturday?
Triple coverage. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I love you media guys, but if you think somebody's triple covering somebody, please send me video of that so I can see it, because that means we got somebody else wide open, okay? Now, he might have thrown it in the vicinity of somebody and they broke on it, but there is no football player known to man that is going to draw triple coverage. Okay, that's just not going to happen because there's too many good players around them, especially at the level we're at. But it's hard to answer that question because I don't even think I've ever heard it. But I don't think we can force the ball to Brock. We have to have touches for Brock. And if you go back and chart our games, there's when he touches the ball, usually good things happen. Also, what Brock does a really good job of is when he doesn't get the ball, go look at Kenny McIntosh's run. Go look at the frog play where we ran Darnell and Brock out on the perimeter for Kenny to set up a score. There's a lot of weapons that Brock does. And because Brock and Darnell are both really good point of attack blockers, it makes them really good in the play action as well.
Coach, you talked about picking up some things from Coach Lee in the past. Is there any kind of example what you can give about, maybe not giving too many specifics, about kind of some of the things you have learned from him?
Well, really more studying scheme. They did a tremendous job at Notre Dame. If you remember, played Notre Dame those years, and his defenses had elite tackling, really physical, disguised things really well, and he was the architect of that. And those are things that we copied in the off seasons.
We won't get to ask you next week because you got a bye week. But what is your priority for the bye week coming up after Vandy?
I hadn't even thought about the bye week, Roddy. I mean, I'm concerned with Vandy and getting our team better. To look at the bye week right now would be dishonorable to Vandy. I mean, let's be honest. This is a good football team. I just told y'all they're one of the most improved football teams, and we respect and value that in our organization, how their kids will play and how they played last weekend.
Kirby, what do you think the difference was in the fourth quarter in your passing success versus, I guess, first half you had 25 yards. Maybe that was the slow start. People were talking about throwing it. But in the fourth quarter, you guys really lit it up. What did you think the difference was? Did Monken change some things?
Maybe they were tired from the strike and attack of the 290 yards that had been gained, and they weren't quite rushing as fast, and they weren't getting back there as fast. We were a little more accurate in terms of it. Threw the ball a little better. I mean, we had a couple passes in the first quarter that we either threw high or we dropped, and then we overthrew a guy on third down. I mean, to be honest with you, when you run the ball better, guess what you also normally do? Throw the ball better. So on the drives that we ran the ball well, we threw the ball well. On the drives that we didn't run it well, we usually didn't throw it well because it brought up third and long.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about the star position. First, Javon Bullard, his first game back. How pleased were you with his approach and his attitude before the game? And then Tykee Smith, the thing that you mentioned before is mainly his health and his confidence, his knee. Where do you think he is in terms of that point?
Both those guys continue to get better. We're going to need both of them throughout the year. We had a role for both of them in the last game. I thought they both accepted that role well, played really hard. Both had a couple, mental mistakes that you can't afford to make at that position that we didn't get exposed on. But I like the way both those guys practice, and I love the energy they kind of bring, and they kind of feed off each other, and proud of those guys.
Coach, we're going to get to talk to Jackson Meeks in just a little bit. Kind of what has he done earlier this season to kind of open your eyes?
Well, the number one thing he's done, he's been a special teams demon. You guys don't get to see it enough, but he's taken over a role on special teams in terms of kickoff coverage, punt return. He's really been really good at what he does. He executes his assignment. He plays with great toughness. He's gotten some opportunities at wideout, but he's really physical. And that the whole culture and team building and special teams being first, he's really bought into that and brought kind of an air of toughness to that room that we haven't had in a while.
Let's take two more questions.
Kind of on that front, I noticed a real good block by Denala and Morrissette to spring Branson on one of those runs. How's him and the other young wideouts coming?
Doing well. Denalen has gotten better with each week. He was thrown into a little more action a couple weeks ago. He went a long time in camp without practicing, so he's still maybe 15, 20 practices behind the other guys. But tell you what, when we've asked him to show toughness and make some plays, he's done it. Dylan Bell continues to do that. C.J. Smith has gotten better with every practice. I hope I'm not leaving anybody out, but I feel like those guys are getting better.
Last question, anyone?
Kirby, looks like Brett Thorson has a pretty good ability to kind of pin him inside the 20. Did he have that right when he walked on campus, or has that been something that's developed over the last 10 months or whatever?
Well, I wasn't with him when he was in Australia. I can promise you that. So I don't know how he kicked it there, other than the videos they sent. But they do a incredible job of preparing those guys for coming to the States, being part of a college atmosphere, being part of a team, and he's accepted that really well. I thought his punting Saturday was one of the positives in terms of not only the pins, but the hanging distance was really good. Thank you.